I never expected my worst nightmare to unfold right in front of my eyes, through a screen. It started as an ordinary evening. I was at my office, casually checking the security cameras at home, something I did every now and then just to feel closer to my wife, Emma. But this time, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Two men. In my house. Not just any men, my best friends, Ryan and Jake. They walked in like they owned the place, laughing, drinking, the same way they had so many times before. But then one of them touched her. At first, I thought maybe I was imagining it. Maybe it was just a friendly gesture. But then the second one followed, and Emma, she didn't push them away. My stomach twisted. My hands clenched into fists. What the hell was I watching? Emma and I had been married for 5 years. 5 beautiful, fulfilling years, at least that's what I thought. She was my world, the one person who made me feel like I had it all. I worked hard to build a stable life for us, running my own small but successful business. She, on the other hand, had always been the warm, loving woman who made our house feel like home. People used to tell me how lucky I was. Emma was stunning, long chestnut hair, deep green eyes, a smile that could make any bad day feel better. But beyond her looks, it was her kindness that drew me in. She had this way of making people feel special, like they were the most important person in the room. And honestly, I never doubted her. I trusted her completely. Ryan and Jake had been my best friends since college. We'd been through everything together, late-night study sessions, heartbreaks, victories, and failures. They were like my brothers. And naturally, when I got married, they became close with Emma too. It wasn't unusual for them to stop by unannounced, to have drinks at our place, to crash on the couch after one too many beers. We were family. Or at least, that's what I thought. Looking back now, there were moments, small, fleeting moments, that should have raised red flags. Like the way Jake would hug Emma a little too long. Or how Ryan's jokes about how hot she was never really stopped, even when I told him to cut it out. Emma would always just laugh it off. "They're your best friends, babe," she'd say, rolling her eyes playfully. "They're just being idiots." And maybe I wanted to believe that. Maybe I didn't want to see the signs. Our marriage was solid, or so I believed. Sure, things had changed over the years. We weren't the same couple we had been in the honeymoon phase, but who was? Life got busy. Work got stressful. There were nights I came home exhausted, barely having the energy to do more than eat dinner and collapse into bed. I figured Emma understood. She was always supportive, always reassuring me that she knew how hard I was working for our future. But there were small things I ignored. How she started dressing up more, even when she was just staying home. How she'd smile at her phone before quickly tucking it away when I walked into the room. How sometimes when I kissed her, she didn't kiss me back the same way she used to. But I pushed those thoughts aside. Because she was Emma, my wife. And she would never betray me, right? It started small. Little things I could have brushed off as nothing. Emma was on her phone more. Not just scrolling through social media. No, she was texting. A lot. And every time I walked by, she'd tilt the screen away, locking it with a quick tap. At first, I laughed it off. Got a secret admirer. I teased one evening as she lay on the couch, her fingers moving rapidly across the screen. She barely looked up. Just talking to Lisa. Lisa was her best friend from college. They'd always been close, so I had no reason to question it. But then I noticed something odd. Lisa called one afternoon while Emma was in the shower. I picked up, greeting her casually, only to be met with silence. "Oh, hey," Lisa finally said, sounding hesitant. "I was just calling to check in. Is Emma there?" "She's in the shower," I said. "She'll call you back." Lisa hesitated. Then, almost too quickly, she said, "Okay, yeah. No worries. Talk later." She hung up before I could say anything else. It was strange, but I told myself I was overthinking. Then came the late nights. Emma had always been a homebody, never one for late-night outings unless it was with me. But suddenly, she was going out more often. "Lisa's having a rough time," she told me one Friday night, slipping on a dress that hugged her figure in a way that made my stomach twist. "She just needs someone to talk to." I nodded, trying to ignore the uncomfortable feeling creeping up my spine. "Want me to come with you?" She laughed, pressing a quick kiss to my cheek. "It's just girl talk, babe. You'd be bored out of your mind." I watched as she grabbed her purse and walked out the door. She didn't come home until after 2 a.m. I was still awake when she slipped into bed, her body warm from the alcohol I could smell on her breath. "You have fun?" I asked, my voice laced with something I couldn't quite name, something between suspicion and fear. she murmured sleepily. Yeah, Lisa just needed to vent. I stared at the ceiling, a heavy weight settling in my chest. Something wasn't right. The turning point came when I found a receipt in her car. Emma rarely drove anywhere alone. Usually we went places together, and if she needed to go out, she used rideshare apps. But one morning, as I was grabbing something from her car, I noticed a crumpled piece of paper on the passenger seat. A receipt from a fancy restaurant downtown. For two. The timestamp? The same night she claimed she was with Lisa. My heart pounded as I stared at it. There was no reason for her to lie. Unless... I clenched my fists, trying to push away the ugly thoughts forming in my mind. Maybe Lisa had just treated her to dinner. Maybe there was an explanation. But deep down, something told me I wasn't going to like the truth. Then came the moment that shattered the last piece of my denial. It was a Saturday, and I was supposed to be working late. But I wrapped up early, eager to surprise Emma with dinner. I even picked up her favorite takeout, thinking we could have a quiet night together. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed something strange. Ryan's car was parked outside. And Jake's. A chill ran down my spine. I stepped inside, expecting to hear laughter, maybe the sound of the TV playing in the background. Instead, I heard hushed voices. I followed the sound down the hallway, stopping just outside the living room. My pulse hammered in my ears. Relax, Emma, Ryan's voice. He'll never find out. He's not stupid, Ryan, Emma whispered back, her voice shaky. He's already suspicious. I felt like the air had been sucked from my lungs. I should have barged in right then, confronted them, demanded the truth. But I didn't. I turned around, walked back to my car, and drove off, my hands gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. I needed proof, and I was going to get it. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind kept replaying their voices, their words, Emma whispering that I wasn't stupid, that I was already suspicious. They knew. They knew I was catching on. And yet they still did it. I needed proof. Real, undeniable proof. So I did something I never thought I'd do. The next morning, while Emma was still asleep, I installed security cameras in the house. Not just outside, inside. Living room, kitchen, even our bedroom. I told myself it was for peace of mind. That if I was wrong, if this was all some horrible misunderstanding, I'd feel like the biggest idiot in the world. But deep down, I knew. I knew what I was going to find. For 3 days, nothing happened. Emma acted normal, almost too normal. She kissed me goodbye in the mornings, sent me cute texts during the day, curled up next to me at night like everything was fine. And for a moment, I almost convinced myself I had been wrong. Until the 4th day. That night, I got stuck at work late. I wasn't supposed to be home until after midnight. Emma knew that, which is why, when I checked the cameras for my phone, my blood turned to ice. There they were, Ryan and Jake, inside my house, with my wife. My heart pounded in my chest as I watched the scene unfold. Ryan poured himself a drink, laughing as he sat on the couch. Jake leaned against the kitchen counter, his eyes fixed on Emma. And Emma, she wasn't pushing them away. She wasn't telling them to leave. She was smiling, joking, pouring herself a glass of wine, like this was normal. Like my best friends being alone with her in my house while I was gone was perfectly okay. I watched in stunned silence as Ryan reached for her hand, playfully pulling her toward him. She swatted him away at first, laughing. But then Jake stepped closer, brushing her hair over her shoulder. I gripped my phone so tightly I thought I might shatter it. What the hell was I watching? I swallowed hard, my breath coming in short, uneven gasps. I wanted to turn it off, to throw my phone against the wall, and pretend I hadn't seen anything. But I couldn't look away. Ryan slid a hand down Emma's arm, his fingers lingering on her wrist. Jake leaned in, whispering something in her ear that made her giggle. And then, Emma bit her lip. My stomach twisted into knots. She wasn't fighting it. She wasn't pulling away. My pulse roared in my ears as she let them touch her. As she let them lean in closer, their hands wandering like they had every right to be there. Like she was theirs. Like I didn't exist. I stood up so fast my chair nearly toppled over. My entire body shook with rage, betrayal, and agony, so deep it felt like something inside me had snapped. I had seen enough. I grabbed my keys, my vision red with fury. They thought I was still at work. They thought they were safe. They had no idea I was on my way. I drove like a madman. My hands clenched the wheel, my mind racing with every possible scenario. What was I going to do when I got there? Would I scream? Would I hit them? Would I break down? I didn't know. All I knew was that I had to see it for myself. I had to walk into that house, my house, and make them face what they had done. As I pulled into the driveway, I didn't even bother turning off the engine. I jumped out of the car, heart pounding in my chest, adrenaline roaring through my veins. The front door was unlocked. Of course it was. Why would they lock it? They thought they were safe. They thought I was still at work. I stepped inside, and the first thing I heard was laughter. Their laughter. The sound of glasses clinking. Like this was just another casual night for them. I walked into the living room, and there they were, Ryan, Jake, and Emma, sitting on the couch like nothing was wrong. Emma's head was tilted back in laughter, her hand resting on Ryan's knee. Jake was smirking, swirling his drink in his glass. And then they saw me. The room went silent. Emma's smile froze, her eyes widening in shock. Ryan's face went pale, his drink halfway to his lips. Jake sat up straighter, suddenly tense. I didn't say anything at first. I just stood there, staring at them, letting the moment stretch into unbearable silence. Then, slowly, I pulled my phone from my pocket, turned the screen toward them, and pressed play. The security footage. Right there, in front of them. Emma's breath hitched as she watched herself on the screen, laughing, touching, letting them get close. Ryan muttered a curse under his breath. Jake set his glass down carefully, his jaw tightening. I looked up, my voice calm, too calm. "So," I said, my grip tightening around the phone. "Who wants to go first?" Emma was the first to react. "It's not what it looks like," she blurted out, her voice shaking. "Baby, please, just let me explain." I let out a bitter laugh. "Not what it looks like." I echoed. "Emma, I watched you. I watched everything." She stood up, reaching for me, but I stepped back. "Don't," I snapped, my voice sharp as a blade. Ryan exhaled, rubbing his hands over his face. "Man, look, we were just messing around. We didn't mean anything by it." I turned to him slowly, my hands trembling with rage. "Messing around." My voice was barely above a whisper, but was filled with venom. "You were in my house, touching my wife." He opened his mouth, but I cut him off. "You sat at my table, drank my drinks, laughed with me like you were my brothers," I hissed, my hands curling into fists. "And the whole time, you were waiting for me to turn my back." Jake, usually the cocky one, had the nerve to look guilty. "Man, it just happened." I snapped my head toward him, eyes burning. "It just happened." I repeated. "You don't just accidentally betray someone who's had your back for years. You don't just happen to," my voice cracked, "to do this." I turned to Emma, my chest heaving. "How long?" I demanded. "How long has this been going on?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "It wasn't like that." "How long?" I roared, my voice shaking the walls. She flinched, biting her lip. 3 months, she whispered. I felt like the ground had been ripped from under me. 3 months. 90 days of lies. 90 days of them laughing behind my back. 90 days of me loving someone who was already gone. I swallowed the lump in my throat, blinking rapidly. "Why?" Emma sobbed. "I don't know." "Don't lie to me." She took a shaky breath. "I felt lonely. You were always working. Always tired. They made me feel," she choked on her words. "Made you feel what?" I asked coldly. She looked down. "Wanted." My stomach twisted. And I didn't. She didn't answer. And that told me everything I needed to know. I took a deep breath, stepping back. The rage, the pain, it was all crashing down on me, at once drowning me. But I wasn't going to break. Not in front of them. I turned on my heel and headed for the door. Emma gasped. "Where are you going?" I stopped, looking over my shoulder. "Away from you." Her face crumbled. "Please, we can talk." "There's nothing left to talk about," I cut her off. "You made your choice, Emma. Now live with it." And with that, I walked out the door, slamming it behind me. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to scream or break things. I had already won. Because now, she would have to spend every single day knowing that she threw away a man who truly loved her. And I would move on. Without her. I drove aimlessly for hours, the city lights blurring past as I tried to make sense of everything. My mind kept replaying the scene. Emma's betrayal, Ryan and Jake's guilt-ridden faces, the sickening realization that my best friends had destroyed everything I thought was real. But as much as it hurt, one thing became clear. I wasn't going to let them win. I wasn't going to be the one left broken. They were. The next morning, I returned to the house. Not to forgive. Not to talk. just to collect what was mine. Emma was still there, her face pale, eyes red and swollen from crying. She opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. "Don't," I said, my voice cold. "I'm not here for you." I packed my things in silence, ignoring her sniffles, her desperate attempts to start a conversation. When I was done, I turned to face her one last time. "You'll regret this," I said simply. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I already do." I didn't say another word. I just walked out, leaving her in the mess she had created. But I wasn't done yet. Ryan and Jake had taken something from me, my trust, my friendship, my dignity. And I was going to take something from them in return. So I exposed them. Not with fists. Not with violence. With the truth. I sent the security footage to everyone we knew. Our mutual friends, their families, their co-workers. I let the world see them for who they really were. The fallout was brutal. Ryan lost his job. His boss didn't take kindly to homewreckers. Jake's girlfriend left him, humiliated that she had been played for a fool. And their reputations. Destroyed. As for Emma, she tried to call. She texted, begged for another chance, said she'd do anything to fix what she had broken. But I never responded. She didn't deserve my words. She only deserved the silence. Months passed, and I rebuilt. I focused on myself, on my business, on the life I wanted without the people who betrayed me. One day, I ran into Lisa, Emma's best friend. The real Lisa. She pulled me aside, shaking her head. I told her she was making the biggest mistake of her life, she said. She thought she was having fun, but now, she's miserable. I smiled. Not out of malice, not out of revenge, just peace. Good, I said. And then I walked away. Because I had already won.